Good morning, everyone. The guests are already in the college, so the moment they enter the lecture theatre, I request you to kindly stand up. I request all of you to kindly put your mobile phones on silent mode for the same. Thank you so much. And inside your bag also.
तो पीछे कर क्या अभी नहीं आया
to the International Conference on Paradigm Shift in World Economies, Opportunities and Challenges.
We would request all of you to please stand up for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, everyone.
We feel honored this morning by the presence of our honorable keynote speaker, Professor Arun Kumar from Jawaharlal Nehru University, Director of Officiating, Rukmani Devi Institute of Advanced Studies, Professor Dr. Raman Garg, Convener, International Conference, Professor Dr. Anil Kumar Goyal, Co-Convener, International Conference, Dr. Tripti Bajpai Toor, and other esteemed academicians who will be joining us soon, Professor Abhishek Nirjar, Director, IFIM, Bangalore, Professor Anil Singh, Associate Professor, Ford School of Management, Dr. J.K. Goyal, Director, Jagan Institute of Management Studies, Dr. Hamendra Kumar Dangi, Associate Professor in Department of Commerce, Shri R.K. Dubey, Retired Chairman and Managing Director, Canara Bank, Professor C.P. Gupta, Department of Financial Studies, University of Delhi, Professor Sanjeev Mittal, Dean, University School of Management Studies, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, Professor R.K. Mittal, Director Development, GGS IPU, Professor Debi Saini from MDI Gurgaon, Professor V.K. Seth, Retired, Faculty of Management Studies, FMS, Delhi University. We thank you for gracing this occasion by your presence.
Astoma Sadgamaya, Tamsoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya.
May the goddess of knowledge, wisdom, and purity take us from ignorance to truth, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. To invoke the blessings of Goddess Saraswati, I would request Professor Kumar, Dr. Garg, Professor Goyal, Dr. Toor, and few dignitaries to please come forward and light the lamp.
शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिः परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपज्योतिः परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपो हरतु मे पापम् सन्ध्यादीपनमोऽस्तुते ओ दीपब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं ज्योतिषां प्रभुरव्ययः ओ दीपब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं ज्योतिषां प्रभुरव्ययः आरोग्यं देहि पुत्रांश्च मतिं स्वच्छां हि मे सदा रवेरस्तं समारभ्य यावत् सूर्यो
Thank you, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow us taking a privilege of presenting you a sneak preview of Rukmini Devi Group of Institutions, keeping in view the growing need of educational opportunities for children with the exposure to contemporary circumstances to develop them into responsible citizens as a national resource. Sri K.C. Garg and his wife, Mrs. Anita Garg, established the society, namely Seth Pokharmal Educational Society, to serve the community and society as a whole. Under the aegis of Seth Pokharmal Educational Society, he started Rukmini Devi Public School and perpetuated the name of his revered father, Seth Pokharmal ji, and his respected mother, Srimati Rukmini Devi ji, who were having their vision for education of masses in India. Seth Pokharmal Educational Society, established in 1986, operates several institutes of repute under the brand name of Rukmini Devi. Through its concerted efforts, the society has created institutions of international standard that impart quality education right from the kindergarten stage to doctoral level programs at very affordable prices.
At present, the society has the following institutions under its umbrella: Rukmani Devi Junior Wing, Pitampura and Sonipat; Rukmani Devi Public School, Rohini; Rukmani Devi Public School, Pitampura; Rukmani Devi Public School, Sonipat; Rukmani Devi Lalit Kala Kendra, a fine arts center affiliated to Sangeet Kala Academy, Allahabad; Rukmani Devi College of Education; and Rukmani Devi Institute of Advanced Studies. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and privilege to introduce you to an eminent thinker, philosopher, and expert par excellence in the field of economics, Professor Arun Kumar. He is the country's leading authority on the black economy and has studied, written about, and lectured extensively on the phenomena for nearly 4 decades. Professor Kumar holds his PhD in economics from Jawaharlal Nehru University and a MSc in physics from University of Delhi and Princeton University. Professor Kumar taught economics at JNU from 1984 to 2015. Professor Kumar has authored various books, namely The Black Economy in India, Indian Economy Since Independence, Persisting Colonial Disruption, Challenges Facing Indian Universities, and his recent book, Understanding the Black Economy and Black Money in India, an inquiry into causes, consequences, and remedies. Sir, we are honored by your esteemed and inspirational presence today. I request Director RDIAS, Professor Dr. Raman Garg, to kindly felicitate Professor Arun Kumar. Thank you, sir.
Next, we would like to felicitate Director RDIAS, Professor Dr. Raman Garg. Sir has contributed in the field of nanotechnology and holds a PhD from University of Manchester, UK. Sir, we thank you for for providing a platform like this to every one of us, where we would have sessions from well-equipped professionals from academia and industry contributing to the value creation process. I would request student coordinators to please felicitate Dr. Garg. We would also like to thank convener and co-convener for this international conference for their ample contribution in making this event a big and a huge success. I request student coordinators to please felicitate Professor Dr. Anil Goyal. I request student coordinators again to please felicitate Dr. Tripti Bajpai Toor. Thank you, madam. Thank you, students. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Director Professor Dr. Raman Garg to deliver welcome address on this occasion.
Good morning, all of you. I, on behalf of management, faculty and students of RDIAS, extend a very warm welcome to Professor Kumar, who has graced this occasion with his presence and honored us today. I'm happy to note that during the 2 days conclave, we will host eminent academicians, thinkers from reputed institutions across India. And we also have support of intellectuals who are here to present their research work from institutions in and around Delhi. During the 2-day conference, we'll have discussions and deliberations on varied themes, including demonetization, GST, black economy, make in India, etc. And I'm eager, as you are, my friends, to fill myself with varied perceptions and discussions on such relevant themes. I also wish to acknowledge efforts of student coordinators, co-convener conference Dr. Toor, convener Professor Goyal, for choosing such a relevant and interesting topic, that is paradigm shift in world economies, opportunities and challenges. Friends, I want to make it crisp and quick, though I'm not a trained management academician. I request you to ignore my fallacies. Uh, Today, I think we live in a world of contradictions and uh, dualities. On one hand, with growing science and technology and growing wealth, human civilization has developed as never before. But on the similar hand, frequent regional conflicts, terrorism, and issues related to refugees, poverty, unemployment, widening income gap have all added to the uncertainties of the world. On one hand, the countries, big economies are signing billion-dollar deals to buy aeroplanes and arms, and on another hand, they're bombing countries and they are also signing environment protection deals. The countries, the efforts of economies and countries towards establishing world peace, towards creating an economy for sustainable and inclusive development, all point to the inherent fault lines we have in our systems. I recently read an article in a daily which was by a small boy, not as small as a school going boy, but yes, a graduate boy, an educated boy who was from Rajasthan, in a remote village, from a remote village. The government was trying to reallocate the entire clan to set up a project of some sort. And the boy urged the government in the article not to do so. I'm not against development, but the stand of the boy was that this is against the environment and against the will of the clan to protect their heritage. The boy concluded the article with a very strong message, and that message has stayed with me uh, forever. And I'd like to share that message with you. And I think this message has become the beacon of light for me in times I need it. The line was like this: the boy saying to the government that your desire may be your need, your desire to establish this project may be your need, but our need is our desire. So let me fulfill my desire, because my need to protect my habitat is the only desire I have. So friends, I think it is a very important message, because we all live in a world of abundances, and we must learn to appreciate uh, and live the life of abundances. So my message, concluding remark, would be that I want you to acknowledge the fact that sooner we live with necessities and leave to live the life of abundances, so it will be better for us as an individual, for our economies and our planet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your motivating words.
Ladies and gentlemen, the youth icon of India, Dr. Sambit Patra, national spokesperson, Bharatiya Janata Party, the chief guest for this international conference, could not be able to make this to this event due to unavoidable reasons, but he has shared his valuable thoughts on changing landscape of Indian economy through a video message for all of us. Let us have a privilege to listen to an eminent speaker who's a leader behind the celebrity and is a professor of Swaraj.
Namaskar to everyone in the Rukmini Devi Institute of Advanced Studies. Let me congratulate you for this great organization. Let me congratulate you for this great event that you have organized today. You are discussing about the world economics and Indian economics vis-a-vis the world economy. I would say that despite the fact that the world economy has hit a rough patch, India is doing quite well. And this is because of the fundamentals of Indian economics, which are quite sound and which are established on sound grounds. As far as the change of Indian economics is concerned, I would say the opportunities and the challenges both have to be seen. Post Mr. Modi becoming the Prime Minister of India, a lot has changed in India. There was a time previous to this when Indian economy was slow, when we had a GDP of approximately 4.8 for 2 consecutive years. But today we see a very different India, a new India as Mr. Modi has put in his own words. What are the reasons? What were the challenges when we came into power? The two most important issues when we came into power were corruption, nepotism, and policy paralysis. These were addressed in the first quarter itself. Na khaunga na khane dunga was the message of the Prime Minister to everyone. There should be no corruption, and we have to create a message across the world that India is a place where you can invest without any fear of corruption. The system was simplified, and the result that we got was the highest amount of FDI investment into India, which was almost higher than China as well. As far as the policy paralysis is concerned, we had seen as to how in the previous dispensation there was a sense of stagnancy. This was given up with the kind of hard work that the Prime Minister has put in, and the results are also evident that India has jumped almost 16 spots in the ease of doing business. So naturally the challenges were met and the opportunities were harnessed in a way that Indian economy today is moving in the right direction. Some of the most important issues which have been addressed by the Prime Minister in the recent years, first I would say, is the financial inclusion. Though we were independent since last 70 years, but almost 50% of the people did not find their way into the formal Indian banking system. With the Jan Dhan Yojana, the Prime Minister brought in financial inclusion. And the best part of this financial inclusion was a direct benefit transfer. The corruption and the pilferage because of the middlemen were cut off. This is a big boost, I would say, to Indian economy and the confidence that the investors now have in the Indian economy. In fact, while I speak, I get the news from the TV channels that the GST has been passed in the Rajya Sabha, also the upper chamber of the Indian Parliament. So naturally, this unification of the country as one market, one nation, one market, one nation, one tax is something which would be a fit for Indian economy. And as the economists have been stating, that this would give a fillip of approximately 1 to 2% to the Indian economy, Indian GDP. And the third most important issue, I believe, that the Modi government has brought it into the fore, which has become a talking point across the globe today, is demonetization. Though long pending, the way demonetization was brought in India, it showed the courage of the Prime Minister, it showed the determination of the Prime Minister, and it showed, as we call in Hindi, "Jahan chaha hai, wahan raha hai." Where there is a will, there is a way. If you wish to take India by leaps and bounds in a direction which is best suited for its population, then naturally you have to have a strong will. And through demonetization, the Prime Minister proved this. Demonetization not only does away with the counterfeit currency, is not only a body blow to the terrorism and terrorist activities, not only gives a fillip by bringing down black currency, but it also, through digitalization, modernizes the Indian economy, and that would be one of the most important opportunities fulfilled in the decade coming next. As far as the opportunities is concerned, the Prime Minister has been constantly mentioning that one of the most important opportunities of India is the demographic dividend. Since this is a college that I'm addressing, most of the participants over here I expect would be young people, young men and young girls, young men and young women. So naturally, the demographic dividend that the Prime Minister has been talking of is the dividend which would take India in the right direction in the years to come. And we were not harnessing them. So today, by Digital India, we are harnessing the demographic dividend of India. By Skilling India, we are harnessing the demographic dividend of India. By Stand Up India, Startup India, we are harnessing the demographic dividend of India. And by Mudra Yojana, by giving loans to the ones who can start their own entrepreneurship, we are giving a fillip to the demographic dividend of India. So naturally, meeting the challenges and harnessing the opportunity has been the Moola mantra, the most important mantra of the Modi government, and that's the reason as to why it's a new India under Prime Ministership of Mr. Narendra Modi. Jai Hind and thank you. Namaskar to everyone.
We thank Dr. Sambit Patra for his inspiring words of wisdom. Now I would request our keynote speaker, Professor Arun Kumar from Jawaharlal Nehru University, to please enlighten the gathering.
Slide change, pen change, up and down slides.
Thank you.
Pointers.
So, distinguished fellow panelists on the dais, distinguished faculty members of the Rukmini Devi Institute and those who've come from outside, the student friends who are present here, it's my pleasure to be here in your midst, and I feel grateful to the Institute for inviting me to come and address you. This is an area which, as Dr. Sambit Patra pointed out, is something which needs to be understood as to what its consequences are. And I'll be focusing, as the slide suggests, demonetization 2016. The reason why I put 2016 is because there have been demonetization earlier also. So we are focused on the idea of what does demonetization 2016 mean. And the title of your conference is Paradigm Change in the World. So what kind of paradigm change does this imply for the Indian economy? That also needs to be understood. And along with any paradigm change, there are social challenges that come, and therefore I try and focus on the social challenges as well. Now, if I think of the paradigm shift in general, what is very clear is the world has been changing very rapidly. Not now, but for the last at least 50 years. During my lifetime, it has changed a lot. For instance, if I think back of my childhood, in the name of electrical gadgets, there were only two things in our house. One, a Cine fan, and the other was a Murphy radio. Other than that, we had nothing else. There was no refrigerator, there was no, electrical gadgetry in terms of telephones and various other things, So life has changed very dramatically as compared to the 50s when I was born in 1950. And that has led to vast changes. As we know, today we hardly use post offices. Telegraph has stopped. We use the internet. We transfer money also through internet rather than use checks, etc. increasingly. In 1977, I wrote an article in which I pointed out that how we could do banking through net, how we could do shopping through net, we could design our own clothes, we could in fact design our own car. That day is coming where you'd be able to do all that using the tools that are becoming available through the internet. So in other words, connectivity has changed quite dramatically. And what it means is that new challenges come up as changes take place. And what is happening is the rate of change is so great that by the time we understand it, it's too late to change it. So any mistakes that we make also become a part of it. And therefore, it's very necessary that we anticipate change. That means we understand where we are headed and anticipate the change. But you see, as Arrow in his famous paper suggested, what does technology do? It creates a mist for the future. So we are not able to look long ahead. We are only able to look immediate. And therefore we become short-termists. But as in my book, Indian Economy, I have argued, life has emerged in this planet after about $1.5 billion, 5 billion years, as we understand life as human beings, that has emerged over a long period of time. and this planet Earth can survive for another 2 billion years. You know, after that, the sun will become a red giant. It'll start expanding, and the Earth will heat up. It'll become like Venus, and therefore life would be difficult as we know it today. So we have to plan for the next 2 billion years. But most of the time, we're not even planning for the next 5 to 10 years. Forget even 100 years or a million years. And that is the great challenge. How to plan for the long term? Because the world is going to survive over the long term. And therefore, when we say paradigm change, we must understand what this means, where it's leading us to, and what are the principles by which we can do it. So for instance, you've seen internet and knowledge explosion. There's so much knowledge today available on the internet. How do we distinguish what is useful for me and what is not? As it is said, there's a lot of white noise. You know, how do you distinguish the signal from the noise? That becomes a crucial difficulty. That how, when a student is going and looking at the internet for the relevant thing, what is relevant and what's not relevant, and what is it that I've absorbed and what is it that I've not absorbed. So if I open something on, say, the topic of inflation, I'll get 10 million pages. I can't read it in even 100 lifetime, you know. So I have to select, and that becomes a big challenge. So media has changed. The nature of communication has changed. You don't need to read the newspapers. You can go to the net and pick the news. So like in America, my nephew who's a doctor there, he says, I make my own news. I don't depend on the newspaper editor to tell me what the news is. So how do you look at news? That itself has changed completely. And people may not be buying newspapers, people may not be watching television news, but maybe doing it through other means. So who's influencing what? And that's changing nature of our politics. Today, politicians don't necessarily have to be statespersons like we used to talk in the 50s and 60s when there was Kennedy and de Gaulle and other such leaders like Mao, etc., who were supposed to be visionaries. But today, if you want to be a leader, you have to be photogenic. You have to be able to speak well. That's more important than what's the vision that you have. So in other words, the nature of politics has changed because the nature of media has changed. And where is it taking us? Do our leaders have the long-term vision that's needed for society? We will be dead, but society will continue. Just like we have emerged after a long struggle that the country had. We have biotechnology, which is coming in. Cloning is coming in. It's said that the way you can clone body parts, you can live forever. If you live for the next 20 years, your life would get prolonged to 50. If you live for 50, it can get prolonged because each of the body part can be actually cloned and therefore replaced in the body. It's like, a car where the part that's gone wrong can be replaced. So how would we cope? Today we retire at the age of 60 or 65. But if you're going to live for 500 years or 1,000 years, then what will we do in the remaining time? So nature of work has to change. The nature of creativity has to change. So unless social changes accompany this technological change, we will not be able to cope with the challenge. So therefore, this paradigm shift that's coming with the biotechnology and the nanotechnology and the nature of changes in the medicine, etc., requires social change. So we have to anticipate what kind of social changes are needed. Because it should not be that internet comes and along with that comes pornography and we are not able to see how to control that. Because it's too late now. You cannot check internet. But how would you, if you anticipated these changes, maybe you could have done something. So similarly, we need to anticipate a lot of the changes that are taking place, the paradigm shift that is taking place in every sphere, whether it be economics or biotechnology or physics, etc. We're talking about space travel. We're talking about colonizing the Mars. Now colonization of space and colonization of Mars will pose its own very, very big challenges socially as well as economically and politically. So it's not just technological, but also social. So how does the social and the technological tie up is very crucial. So in other words, what we have found in the last 100 years is technology has raced ahead, society has not been able to cope with it. So we need social change. How to cope with that? So this haziness of the future is creating a mist, and that's creating a problem for us, and we need to understand that before we are able to do anything further. So one of the paradigm shift that is taking place in India today is the demonetization, and I focus on demonetization, which is the basic topic of my talk here. So it's in this general background that I'm presenting these ideas about demonetization. So okay, So demonetization undoubtedly was pictured as an attack on the black economy. And attacking the black economy is something very, very important, as the Prime Minister spelled out in his first day address. He linked black economy to poverty, and if you are able to attack black economy, you are able to attack poverty. So therefore, it's an important thing that is being done. But the question is, how effective is this step to tackle the black economy? It may not be effective, it may be very effective. We need to understand that. And secondly, if it is effective or not effective, then at what cost to society is this being done? So two important questions that arise in the context of demonetization. How effective is it in tackling the black economy? And B, whether it has high cost or low cost or no cost, what is the kind of cost that we have to bear to do that? And to understand this, we have to understand that there will be an immediate impact and there will be an impact over time. So it's not that everything will play itself out today. So we need to understand that. And what has happened is that analysts have been discovering new aspects of it. And that's why the central bank, the Reserve Bank, had to promulgate more than 60 changes, and the Ministry of Finance also promulgated, so that number of changes that took place between November 8 and December 30th were something of the order of 100 changes, because it was not anticipated. And the Prime Minister himself said that the government officers are hearing of it today only. So the central bank governor heard of it the day before, the bankers heard of it on the same day at 8 o'clock, the cabinet ministers heard of it at 8 o'clock, and therefore there was no preparation. And when we went in without a preparation, then a lot of changes took place which were unanticipated, and therefore many things had to be looked at. And very importantly, this kind of demonetization has never been done in a well-functioning economy. And India was growing at 7% or thereabouts till October, or you can say till November 8, 2016. The rate of growth as per the government was 7% or 7% a little above that. So it was a well-functioning economy. We were the fastest growing economy in the world. So why create this in an economy which was doing very well? That also needs to be understood. And that's why the whole world is watching us. For the world, it's an experiment which has never been done before. So the whole world is watching what is the consequence of this kind of demonetization on a well-running economy. And it's not that in other countries it has not been done. It has been done, but it has been done with preparation. So for instance, you know that in entire Europe, the currency was withdrawn and euro was introduced. So in Germany, you used to have mark. In France, you had to have French franc. In Italy, you had the lira. All these currencies were withdrawn and euro was introduced. But to do that, you had 3 years of full preparation, where basically you printed all the currency, you minted all the coins, and then you introduced the euro. So you withdrew the old currency, but simultaneously you released the new currency. So 3 years preparation was there. But other economies where it has been done because there's a crisis. Like when the Soviet Union collapsed and it turned into Russia, at that time, $1 used to be equal to 1 ruble roughly. But within about 8 to 9 months, there was 60,000 rubles to a dollar. The ruble just collapsed. And so to buy your daily requirements, you had to carry this much of currency. So that was an unviable situation. Or in Venezuela of today, where the economy is collapsing, you need to carry millions of the local currency to buy your daily bread and other things. So there you need to have demonetization. Or after the Second World War, the mark in Germany collapsed, and you needed to create a new mark over there, because again the problem was there. So demonetization has been done largely in economies that were facing a crisis, not in economies that were doing very well. So what do we understand from it? Our previous experience was the 1978 demonetization. What happened at that time? The 1,000, 5,000 and 10,000 rupee currency notes that existed, those notes were replaced, okay? They were withdrawn and they were replaced, okay? Now, at that time, it didn't matter, because that time it was 0.6% of the total currency. Today, the high denomination 1,000 and 500 rupee notes are 86% of the currency on November 8. But that time it was 0.6%. So withdrawal of 0.6% did not make all that much of a difference. I had not seen at that time the 1,000, 5,000 and 10,000 rupee notes. In day-to-day life, you didn't see it. And I remember in my wallet, I used to carry a few 10 rupee notes, a few 1 rupee and 2 rupee notes. So maybe in all 30, 40 rupees. And if I filled petrol in my scooter, I used to fill 3 rupees of petrol. So I didn't need that much cash. If I went out shopping, I used to shop for 2 rupees, 3 rupees, 4 rupees. That's all that I needed. So 30, 40 rupees was good enough for me. So I'd never seen 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 rupee note at that point of time. So it did not produce any great impact on the economy. Now, let's look at the present scheme. So the question is, who's holding this cash? At that time, as per the RBI data, on November 8th, there was 17.5 lakh crores of currency in circulation. Now, you must understand the difference. The total currency issued was about 22.5 lakh crores, but about 5 lakh crores was with the banks and with the central bank. So 17.5 lakh crore was what was with the public. Okay. So holding of currency with the public was 17.5 lakh crores. And of that, 86% was in high denomination notes of 1,000 rupee and 500 rupees, which amounted to 15.44 lakh crores. This is the data from the Reserve Bank of India. Now, where is this money held? Now, businesses need money. Businesses require working capital, they need cash, and my estimate is that about 60% of this currency is held by the businesses. So only 40% is held by the households. So 60% of 15.44 lakh crores would be of the order about 9.5 lakh crores. So 9.5 lakh crores is with the businesses, 6 lakh crores is with the households. Okay, that's my rough estimate. Now it is at this point that I must make you understand some basic macroeconomics. First lesson of macroeconomics is to distinguish between stock and flow. How do I explain the distinction between stock and flow? Above this building at the top, you would have a water tank. In that water tank, you have water, and that water is flowing down into the pipes in your kitchen and toilets and so on and so forth. So there's a flow of water and there's a stock of water. Now the stock of water may be very high, but the water flowing may be very small. But the stock of water could be very small and the flow can be very large. So stock is different from a flow. We cannot say the stock is the flow. So in the case of the economy, what do? We first do some job, we do some work, we get an income out of it, which is a flow. And then out of that, I do my consumption. The balance from the consumption that is left is my saving. And what do I do with my saving? I invest it. And I invest it so my wealth increases. So wealth is my stock and my earning is my income. So there are two components to the black economy: the flow, which is the annual generation of black income, and the stock of wealth that I have accumulated over time. Okay. So according to my estimate, what happens is that today there's 62% of GDP which is black income generation. That means every year you will generate 93 lakh crores. Because this year the total economy is 150 lakh crore. 62% of that is 93 lakh crores. So 93 lakh crores of income generation. So what would be the stock of wealth accumulated over the last 20-25 years? Would be about 300 to 400 lakh crores. Now where is the 300 to 400 lakh crores of black wealth? It is invested in a variety of things. I could put it into real estate, I could put it into jewelry, I could put it into share market, I could put it into mutual fund, I could take it abroad as flight of capital, and I could put it there. I could buy all kinds of things with it. So my stock of wealth is held in what's called the portfolio of assets. And one component of that portfolio of assets is cash. And I don't hold much cash because I don't get a return on it. So 1% of my wealth is cash. So out of the 300 to 400 lakh crores of wealth, only 3 to 4 lakh crore will be cash. The remaining is invested in all kinds of things. So it's a mistake to think that black economy means cash. Cash is only one very tiny component of the black economy. Okay. So this is the first mistake. Second is, who holds this cash? According to my estimate, 3% of Indians generate large black income. Which is not to say that some peon or some other small fellow may not generate 10-20,000 rupees of black income by getting some bribe or something. But if you add up all Class C and Class D employees of central government of India, then the total amount, if you attribute 10,000 rupees to each one of them, will be about 4,000 crores. But one Madhu Koda case of 6,000 crores is bigger than all of their earning. One Satyam case of 12,000 crores is 3 times larger than what these guys will get. So we are not talking about 5,000, 4,000 crores. We are talking about 93 lakh crores, which is generated in in all manners of industry and all manners of things. So therefore, what I found was that 3% of Indians hold bulk of the black cash and the black wealth. Okay, so wealth and cash. Now, suppose I say that 4% of Indians today about 130 crores, so that's about 4 crores Indians. Now, 4 crore Indians, suppose they hold the entire 17.5 lakh crore. How much does that come to? That comes to only 3.8 lakh per person. So this idea that people have sack full of money and crores of money is a misnomer. Average holding per person, assuming all cash is black, is only 3.8 lakh per person. Okay. Now, because they hold 40% as household, 60% is business, therefore this comes to 1.5 lakh only, because the remaining is being held by businesses. So it's even less than 3.8 lakh. And then, because you hold money for your daily requirement, you have to buy groceries, you have to go to the hospital, you have to take a bus ride, you have to do some other thing. So half of the cash will be for your white requirement and half may be for black requirement. So how much is therefore left? Only 75,000 rupees per person as black cash. So it's not a large sum of money. So this idea that people are holding sack full of money, where does it come from? That's a misnomer. But yes, some people would hold, say, 20 crores. Now, how many people can hold 20 crore? Suppose you assume 1 lakh people hold 20 crores each on an average. That makes 20 lakh crores. But that's not possible because the total currency in circulation is only 17.5 lakh crores. So not even 10,000 people can hold 20 crores on an average. And my own estimate is not even 3 to 4,000, because if you assume that 10,000 people hold 20 crores on an average, then the rest will have zero. But that's not possible. So therefore, hardly 2 to 3,000 people may have a 20 crores average. This notion that everybody who has got black has sack full of cash in their business or in their house is a misnomer. And that is the mistake that we have made. That assume that if we squeeze out cash, black economy will collapse. No. Even if you squeezed out the entire black cash, only 3 lakh crore of the black wealth of 300 lakh crore will go. 1%. And of the black income generation of 93.5 lakh crore, nothing would be affected. Why nothing would be affected? Because how do I generate black income? We must understand that. So I'll come to that. How do we generate black income? But before that, let us understand the other reason. Other reason given, as Dr. Sambit Patra pointed out, was counterfeit currency and terrorism. That there's a lot of counterfeit currency and that needed to be taken away. And that counterfeit currency is used to finance terrorism. So is this correct? Now, according to RBI data, you have only 400 crores of counterfeit currency on November 8th. But of 17.5 lakh crore, what is 400 crores? जैसे हिंदी में कहते हैं ऊंट के मुंह में जीरा भी नहीं है. So if you were managing to squeeze out the entire 400 crores, that will hardly affect your problem. Second is, when you use it for terrorist financing, then what do? I take the counterfeit currency and put it in the market, and for 1,000 rupee note, I was getting, say, 500 rupee note. So I have to counterfeit currency all the time. Because once it is in the market, it's circulating. It doesn't finance me a second time. So counterfeit currency only finances the terrorist once. No more than that. And the remaining time it's circulating in the market. So what do I have to do? I have to print the counterfeit currency every day to finance my activities. And who does the printing? Obviously, those who are very capable, like state actors, like ISI, etc. How do you stop them from counterfeiting? And that's why new counterfeit currency notes have appeared within months of the new currency 2,500 rupee notes being introduced. Because they will continue to counterfeit and they have the capacity to counterfeit. So therefore, you can't stop counterfeiting unless you stop the state actors from counterfeiting. And that you cannot do. So counterfeiting will continue, and new counterfeit currency notes have already come into circulation. Second, I can finance terrorism not just through counterfeit currency. How do I finance terrorism? I use narcotic drugs, I use gun running, I use dollars, I use hawala, I use over invoicing and under invoicing. So currency is only one component of financing the terrorist movement. And those things will continue. So in other words, neither does counterfeit currency stop, nor does the financing of terrorist activity stop with this demonetization. So therefore, there has to be something else that has to be done. Okay. Now, why is the black economy not affected? Because people have found ways of circumventing it. Like one of my business friends, he said, I had 3 crore rupees. I gave 4 months of advance salary to my workers. And now when my business takes place, in the coming 4 months, I'll generate 3 crores again. So therefore, in a sense, people use Jan-Dhan accounts. People did all kinds of things, and that's why most of the 15.44 lakh crores has come back into the banking system. That means you could not demobilize the currency that was black. So you could not affect even 1%, you could not even affect 0.1% of the cash that was there in circulation. Because almost 15 lakh crores plus has come back. And some amount of money is lying with people who are abroad and who haven't come back, or with people who have forgotten, as the stories are coming in the last 2 months of people, some old person forgotten in his cupboard or something, or like happened in the case of my sister and brother-in-law. They had currency with them in the US and now it's too late to change it. Okay, so 20,000 rupees gone. So the point is that most of the money has come back, so you have not even able to affect it. Now, what is the problem with it? We think of black economy as parallel economy. But the black economy is not a parallel economy. What is the notion of parallel? Notion of parallel is two lines that don't meet. Okay. So we assume that the black economy and the white economy don't meet. But that is incorrect, because in India the black economy and the white economy are completely intertwined. In what way are they intertwined? So you go buy real estate, you pay 40% in black and 60% in white. So from the same economic activity you generate a black income and a white income. Okay. So the two activities are entwined. Similarly, if you want to convert your black to white and white to black, what do? You go to the stock market, you take a profit, your black becomes white, I take a loss and my white becomes black. So my white becomes black and your black becomes white. You go to a Gurdwara gets a lot of cash, you give them a check and they'll give you cash, so your white will become black. Okay. So in India, there are a large number of ways in which the black and the white economy interact with each other. They're not parallel activities, and therefore the new currency that has been introduced, that is available both to the white economy and the black economy. Your currency note in your pocket is neither colored black nor white. So it's not that there's a separate currency for circulating black economy and separate currency for circulating the white economy. As long as currency is available, it's available in the black economy, it's available in the white economy. So therefore, as more and more currency comes in, that becomes available. And the mechanism of generation of black incomes won't stop. So how do I generate black incomes? As I said, if I'm a teacher and I'm doing tuition and I don't declare that income, that's black income. If I'm a doctor, I charge 500 rupees of fees, but I only declare 50 rupees, then I'm making 450 rupees per patient as black income. If I'm a lawyer charging 2 lakh rupees for an appearance, but I declare only 20,000 rupees, I generate 1,80,000 rupees per appearance as black income. If I'm a narcotic drug seller, I continue to sell narcotic drug and that's black income generation. If I'm a businessman, I do under invoicing and over invoicing and I generate black income through that, that continues. So the mechanisms of black income generation don't stop. And there are as many mechanisms of generating black income as the number of professions. So like in a continuous process industry, how do I generate black? I claim that electricity failed and my lines got clogged, so this is all scrap. It's actually first, but I sell it as scrap. Okay, so as many ways of generating black income as the number of industries and businesses that you have. So none of them stop. So mechanism of generation of black income in different sectors not affected. And above all, you don't need currency now. You can bribe in white. So like in the Aircel Maxis deal, 350 crore worth of shares were allotted for 25 crores and 325 crores was a bribe. You can allot land, 50 crores worth of land for 5 crores and 45 crores the bribe. And now you have gold coins, so you can circulate in gold coins. You don't even have to carry cash. So gold coins, now the new gold coins are introduced with the value of 12,000, 26,000 and 52,000. So if I have to give a bribe of 5 lakh, I just need to carry 10 coins. I don't even have to carry bundles of notes. And now with the new 2,000 rupee currency note, it becomes even easier than earlier. So therefore, what you find is that the black income generation process continues. Cash is not black. That is the main thing. And that was my article in the Hindu yesterday, that cash does not mean black. Now, what is the cost to the economy? Transactions become difficult. So you see, you must understand what is cash. Cash is not something that you eat. Cash is for circulating incomes. So suppose I want to buy this object for 500 rupees, then I pay 500 rupees to the retailer, he pays to the wholesale dealer pays to the producer, and producer pays me the salary with which I buy it. So cash is for circulating transactions, and transactions lead to incomes. When cash shortage comes, then transactions become difficult. And I've been trying to explain this in my popular writing. I have written at least 20-30 articles since November 8th, in which I've tried to explain that it is like drawing blood from your body. What is the purpose of blood? Blood supplies oxygen and nutrients to the different parts of the body. So if you withdraw 86% of blood from somebody's body and you replace it 5% at a time, that body will collapse because it will not have oxygen, it will not have nutrients to make the body function. Similarly, if you withdraw large amounts of cash, it means transactions become difficult. When transactions become difficult, income generation becomes difficult, and that leads to a collapse of the economy. Now, yes, we can try to move towards less cash, especially in the well-off sections where you the credit cards, debit cards, banking, internet banking. We can do that, but that's not the entire economy. And less cash is a difficult proposition. Even in America, when this November 8th thing was announced, I was in USA giving lectures at Yale and Columbia University, and I found people are using a lot of cash. So an economy where for 50 years you've had debit card, credit card and internet banking for the last 20 years, people still use a lot of cash. So it's a matter of habit when you use more cash and when you use less cash. Okay, so what are the cost to the economy? The new black income started getting generated. 1,000 rupee note was going for 700, later on 500, and yet later at 1,100 rupees. 500 rupee note was going for 300, 400 rupees, etc. There were long queues at the bank, the loss of work, and credibility of banking was dented because you had money in the savings account but you couldn't withdraw. Now, what was the implication of that? Implication of that is that over a period of time, people will move towards holding more gold and more of foreign exchange. Both of these have balance of payment implications. Jan Dhan accounts were misused, and therefore Jan Dhan accounts are under scrutiny. Hawala may become more active as a result of this. So there are many things which will promote the black economy further. Okay, but what is the basic impact on the economy? You must understand that Indian economy consists of two main parts, an organized sector and an unorganized sector. The organized sector produces 55% of the output, unorganized sector produces 45% of the output. An unorganized sector employs 94% of the workforce, organized sector employs only 6% of the workforce. Unorganized sector is small and therefore works largely on cash. Organized sector also works a lot on cash, but it can afford to go to credit card, debit card, electronic transfers, etc. But unorganized sector is not capable of doing that. So where was the effect there? The effect was immediately on the unorganized sector. So for instance, Sunitra Chaudhary took us from NDTV, took us to this Rain Basera in Old Delhi on 23rd November, soon after I landed from the US. And there we found that the unorganized sector workers suffering very badly because their employers did not have cash for buying working capital, did not have cash to pay them wages. So many of them were going back home. Similarly, a balloon wala, who used to earn 250 rupees, he said, sir, I'm only earning 25 rupees because I don't have change. And people don't have change to pay. People are just holding on to change. So in other words, the unorganized sector got hit very badly. And according to some reports, the effect was to the extent of 80% in the beginning. Similarly, the wholesale trade said that they were affected to the extent of 60 to 80%. Truckers said the trucking was affected to the extent of 50 to 60%. And when the toll plazas again started from December 3rd onward, they reported 30% drop in toll collection at that point of time. So in other words, the unorganized sector got hit very badly. Now, when the unorganized sector gets hit, it also affects the organized sector. And why? Because even the small guy will buy a little bit of soap, buy toiletry, buy this, buy that, which comes from the organized sector. So the demand in the organized sector also declined, and that's why the FMCG companies suffered. And as a result, what happened was the decline in the organized sector also took place. Now there's a second effect. People like us who had credit card, debit card, and who could, do banking, etc., even we postponed our discretionary demand. There are two kinds of demand. One of them is called discretionary demand. So if I had to buy a shirt, but I was not getting cash in the bank, so I can buy it 2 months later. I don't need to have another shirt today. If I was bored with my mobile phone, I needed to change my mobile phone, I could change it 4 months later. So suddenly demand dropped. You saw that footfalls in the malls dropped in the initial 1 month. The footfalls of the shops dropped very sharply in the initial 1 or 2 months, and therefore the organized sector also got hit. So both the unorganized and the organized sectors got hit, and that therefore led to what? Low capacity utilization. Already in October, before the November 8th issue, capacity utilization in industry was down to 75%. And for 1.5 years before that, industry, according to the index of industrial production, was growing at barely 1%. So the rate of growth of industry was already very low. And the credit offtake in October was the lowest in the preceding 50 years. So credit offtake in bank, which is an indication of economic activity, had already dropped before the November this thing, and it dropped further. So the latest data is that credit offtake is very, very low. This is all a result of the fact that investments are not taking place. And therefore the CMIE data on investment shows that in this quarter, the investment was down to 1,36,000 crores, whereas in the earlier 2 years, the investment was 2.5 lakh crores. So it had already come down to half. When investments come down, that has a long-term effect. Because investment is all about tomorrow. Investment is not about today. So therefore, demand fell, and demand fall, the problem of investment came, and when investment falls, then the problem comes further. Now, very briefly, because time is running out, there's an impact on agriculture also, especially on perishables, vegetables and fruits. So you had reports of vegetable prices and fruit prices dropping. So in Delhi, you saw vegetables selling at 5 rupees, 8 rupees, 9 rupees, whereas in the earlier 2 years, you didn't see vegetable prices drop below 20 rupees. And therefore, you found reports, like when I went to Madurai, I saw in the paper that people are feeding their cabbage to the cattle. I saw reports of how people in Maharashtra were throwing their tomato on the roads because it wasn't profitable for them to go to the mandi. In Ranchi, the farmers who had come to the mandi, they gave 10,000 kilogram of vegetables free to the public because they said it's futile for us to take it back. It will cost us more to take it back than to just give it free here. So therefore, there's a huge crisis as far as the farming sector is concerned. That was also the time when the Kharif crop had come in and the new Rabi crop had to be sown. And that was precisely the time when the farmers had a shortage. So buying of wheat, buying of seed, buying of fertilizer, buying of other pesticides, etc. became difficult, and therefore there's a delay in the planting of the crop. Now when there's a delay in the planting of the crop, productivity drops. So the new Rabi crop, even though the acreage has gone up, but the planting may create a problem. But more than that, workers in the unorganized sector in urban areas went back to the villages. Now, the families in the village were dependent on the workers in the urban areas sending money back home. Now, instead of sending money back, they went back, so the crisis increased in the village families. Then there was an impact on the banking sector as well. The crisis was to collect the money fast enough and to issue new money. And there was a huge shortage, so massive queues formed. And the entire effort of the banking system was to manage cash. So for 2 months, giving out loans and various other things wasn't done. My mother was 89 years old. After a month, I sent her to her bank. and she wanted to transfer some money, do some fixed deposit. The banker said, "Madam, please, 2 mahine tak mat kariye kuch. I don't have time for all this. She said, "Okay, allow me internet banking." So he said, "Madam, not now, after 2 months. We don't have time for all this. So in other words, the normal banking functions completely stopped. They added to the cost of banking, and therefore banking had a big problem. Now more than that, 15 lakh crores is back in the banks. Now that means that's my money, that's the public's money, and the bank has to give me an interest on it. But nobody is taking loan, so how does it make an earning to give that interest? So cost of banking has increased, and that will create a problem. Now it was said that when so much money is there in the banks, then that money can be lent out at cheap interest rate to the public, to the industry, to the small scale industry. But the point is, when capacity utilization is low, nobody is asking for credit. So bankers have been going and offering credit, but there's nobody to take the credit. And that's why credit offtake has come down to a record 3% growth, okay, which is the lowest in the last 60 years. That is because demand is not there. And we have a historical experience for that. When the global economic crisis took place in 2007-8, you know that interest rates dropped. In Britain, they dropped to 0.25%. In America, they dropped to 0.5%. In other places, they dropped, like in Japan, to negative. Japan even had negative interest rates. And yet, credit offtake did not take place. Investment did not take place. Why? Because investment only takes place when the capacity utilization is good. If capacity utilization is low, investment will not take place. And recovery from this has taken place in 6 to 7 years' time. So in other words, the global financial crisis tells us that unless demand revives, the credit offtake will not revive. And therefore, banks will not be able to lend to the people. Now, there's an impact on government finances. What kind of impact is there on the government finances? It was expected that 3 to 4 lakh crore, which is black, will not come back. And if that does not come back, then in the balance sheet of the RBI, there'll be a surplus. Why would there be a surplus? Because how does the central bank issue currency? There are government bonds and there are foreign exchange reserves. Those are its assets. And when it issues currency, that's its liability. Why is it your liability? Because when you open a currency note, it says, "I promise to pay the bearer rupees 100. I promise to pay the bearer rupees 500. So promise to pay means my liability. So RBI has a liability on the one side by issuing currency, and it has a asset side where you have these various assets. And the two are balanced. Now, if 3 to 4 lakh crore doesn't come back, then the liability side falls, asset side remains, so there's a surplus in the balance sheet. And when there's a surplus in the balance sheet, the government thought that it would be able to get a dividend as a result, which then it would be able to distribute to the poor people. But now that 15 lakh crore has come back, there is no dividend. But there's another problem. People are hoarding currency. So you may have to issue more than 15 lakh crores worth of currency, in which case there'd be a deficit. But yes, if the black economy gets affected, then your tax collections could rise. But that remains to be seen how far the black economy gets affected. And therefore, budget making has become a bit of a problem. Okay. So in other words, there are recessionary conditions that are taking hold in the economy because output has declined, because employment has declined, and because of the decline in the investment. These things together produce the recessionary conditions that are there in the economy. And the question therefore is, how long will the pain last? Now, cash shortage will end because more and more currency is being printed. Already about 9.5 lakh crores of new currency has been printed out of 15.44 lakh crores. Okay, so slowly currency shortage will dissipate, but the problem is turning into recession. And the pain will last as long as the recession lasts. Even if currency shortage goes away, the recessionary conditions will take 2 to 3 to 4 years, and therefore that will be a problem. Second is printing of notes. How long will printing of new notes take? There are several problems. You don't hold so much paper and ink that you can print all the currency that you had printed over 12 years in 50 days. It takes months. And especially if you have to print small denomination currency load, 100 rupee instead of 1000 rupee, it'll take, if not 10 times, 5 times more. If you have to print 10 rupee currency note instead of 1000 rupee currency note, that'll take at least 50 times more, if not 100 times more the effort. So therefore, the printing of currency the new currency to replace the old will take place at least 8 to 12 months. So currency shortage will last, but more important than currency shortage is the recessionary condition that the economy is facing. Now, therefore, the government said, okay, this is not happening. Black economy is not getting affected. Counterfeit currency is not getting affected. Terrorism is not getting affected. So, what is the advantage of cashless economy? That now people will be forced to move towards cash, and that may give certain efficiency gains for the economy. So, government is doing everything to move the economy to a cashless economy. But please note, cashless economy has nothing to do with demonetization. You could move towards cashless economy independent of demonetization. Okay, you could try and move people to use more debit card, credit card, etc., even if you did not do demonetization. So the two must be analyzed separately. Just like for demonetization you needed to prepare, for cashless economy also you need to prepare. And two major things are three major things are very important. First is financial literacy. Most people are scared to use. So like when I went to my Canara Bank account manager, he said, sir, I would not, this was about a year back, he said, I would not advise you to do internet banking because there's a lot of hacking going on. And indeed, State Bank of India had to issue 5 million new cards in October because of hacking that was going on. Central Bank of Bangladesh got hacked for $5 billion. They caught it just in time and lost only $80 million. You know that NIA, the most secret agency in the world, was hacked by this fellow Edward Snowden and took GB worth of data out of the system. Julian Assange has been hacking the State Department and its files all along. Okay, so hacking is very easy, and that's why there were two experts discussing on television, and they were saying there are only two kinds of people in the world. One who don't know that their account can be hacked, and the other who know that their account can be hacked. But everybody's account can be hacked. So security is very crucial. Without security, if you go and there's a problem that comes up, that will lead to a decline of this cashless move. Second is regulation. Regulation is very crucial. And third, as I said, is financial literacy. If you don't do that, then you won't be able to move towards a cashless economy. Okay, now to understand all this, let me point to a very few black economy features which must be understood if we are to understand this whole problem of demonetization and why it's not tackling the black economy. First is the size of black economy. In 1955-56, Professor Caldor came from Cambridge and he pointed out that black economy was 4 to 5% of GDP. Then Vanchu Committee in 1970 said it had become 7% of GDP. Then National Institute of Public Finance and Policy in 1981 said it had become 18% of GDP. Then my book, I showed it had become 40% of GDP by 95-96, and now my latest article in EPW shows it has become 62% of GDP. So from 4 to 5% of GDP, it has become 62% of GDP. So it's constantly increased. And this has happened in spite of 40 committees and commissions that have gone into different aspects of black economy in the last 70 years. We had a committee in 1948, then Caldor in 55-56, Santhanam in 64, Vanchu committee in 70, then we had the Dagli committee in 78 and LK Jha committee in 77, and so on and so forth. 40 committees and commissions have gone in. They have suggested thousands of things and hundreds have been implemented. Like we used to have the highest tax rate of 97.5% in 1971 when Mrs. Gandhi was the finance minister. At that time, Vanchu estimated it to be 7% of GDP. Now it's 30% tax rate and the black economy has gone up to 62% of GDP. Controls have been removed to a very large extent. Everything in the 80s businesses wanted was done in between 91 and 93. So FERA is gone, MRTP gone, small scale reservation, licensing, planning, dividend balancing, phase manufacturing program, everything was done between 91 and 93. And yet the black economy is continuing to grow. We have voluntary disclosure scheme 6 times. Last was in 1997 and this time we had the income declaration scheme, and yet the black economy grows. So we have done all kinds of things, hundreds and hundreds of steps. So demonetization is not the first time we are trying to tackle the black economy. We have done lots and lots of things, okay? But the black economy continues to grow. The question is why? And for that, we must understand that black economy results in policy failure. So as Chidambaram said in his budget in 2005, expenditures don't lead to outcome. We have expenditures in the budget on education, on health, etc., but outcome is not there. And why is the outcome not there? Because as Rajiv Gandhi said, when you send 1 rupee from the center, 15 paisa reaches the ground. So if you want to set up a school, then you have to spend 7 years rather than 1 year because the money is not going there, money is eaten up. Or there are fictitious schools Or teachers are fictitious. Schools are there, but teachers are not there. If teachers are there, facilities are not there, or clinics are not there. So how do you achieve your education target? That's why Acer reports between 2005 and 2015 show that 50% children in the 8th class cannot read third class text, cannot do third class mathematics, and cannot do third class reading. That means even though formally they are in the 8th class, but effectively they are not even third standard worth. So therefore you are assured of 50% poverty for the next 50 years, because these children can never do a good job. They can never do a modern technology job which will fetch them a good salary. Okay. So your education policy, your employment policy and poverty policy will fail. So in other words, black economy results in large scale policy failure. You're planning for 100, economy is 162. So therefore you're planning for the wrong amount of steel, wrong amount of cement, wrong amount of transportation, wrong amount of finance. And therefore your planning will fail. Monetary policy fails because you're planning for the white economy without taking the black economy into account. So your economy is 162, but you're planning for monetary policy of 100. So monetary policy fails, is unable to control inflation. So you keep changing CRR, SLR, reverse repo and repo, but you're not able to control things. Okay. So in other words, all macro and micro policies fail. As a result, India, I have shown in a paper in 2005 in South Asia Journal that India has been losing 5% rate of growth as a result of that. From the mid 70s when the black economy became more than 10%. If you add 5% since then today your economy would be a $15 trillion economy rather than a $2.2 trillion economy. So we'd be second after the US, which is $16 trillion and 2 times bigger than China if the black economy was not there. And therefore our per capita income instead of being $1,500 would have been $11,000. So instead of being one of the poorest 30 countries, we would be a middle income country. So in other words, black economy is resulting in massive problems of failure of policy, misdevelopment, and that's why India has some of the poorest conditions of living in the world. Even compared to some South Asian countries, our conditions of living are poor. Compared to sub-Saharan Africa also sometimes we have a poorer standard of living. So in other words, the black economy results in large-scale failure. And why is that? Because I characterize the black economy in 2 ways, but one of the important ways I do is digging holes and filling holes. What is digging holes and filling holes? During daytime, I set one person to dig a hole, and at night, I set another person to fill the hole. So therefore, there are 2 activities taking place, digging a hole and filling a hole. So next morning, there is 0 output, but 2 incomes have been earned. So I call this activity without productivity. So we have a lot of activity in society, but productivity is not there. So to give an example, you make a road, you don't put enough tar in it, the rain comes, the road gets washed away. So you're repairing the same road again and again rather than making new roads. You go to a court, both parties are there, but one party wants to delay, say, sir, my senior has gone to Allahabad. I go, okay, come after 4 months. So judgment that should come in 3 months will take 3 years. Judgment that should come in 3 years will take 30 years. So courts are full of people, but judgments are not coming. And therefore there's utter contempt for justice. You know, look at Chara Ghotala, look at Jayalalitha's case, look at others, go on for 15, 20 years. They don't care, you know. So in other words, what should happen does not happen. And therefore, we are in a situation where there's tremendous inefficiency. The investment that is put in is not efficiently utilized, you know. And therefore, what we find is that this inefficiency is what leads to policy failure, leads to lower growth. And our elite sections are not doing the work they should be doing. So like police is busy collecting hafta rather than solving crime. So one former secretary, Ministry of Home, who I interviewed for my book in 1998, he told me every additional police station in Delhi means more crime. Why? Because the post of the SHO is auctioned to the highest bidder. So the policeman encourages illegal activity. He knows who are the car thieves, who are the pickpockets, where the encroachment is taking place. You try to encroach 1 square yard of land by the roadside, immediately the police will come. Unless you give them hafta, they'll throw you away. Okay? And how I know, you know, my wife is a famous journalist. So in 2008, you know, at the railway station, somebody ran away with her bag. Okay? She immediately went and called the minister in the Prime Minister's office, who she knew very well. He called up. This happened at 11 o'clock at night. By 6 o'clock in the morning, there's a phone call saying, Madam, we have found your bag. And where was the bag? 20 kilometers away from JNU. And when she went there, there was some, bhikari looking fellow said, "Madam, I was taking a walk and I found your bag and I called you." Now, does it happen to the layperson? Indeed not. But the police know who are the thieves at the railway station. So in my book, I have described what is the hafta system in Bombay and the hafta system in Delhi, because one of my relatives was the DGP of Bombay and one other very good friend was the DGP in Delhi. And they told me exactly how the hafta system works. So police is not doing its work. Chartered accountants are not doing their work. So that's why in Satyam's case, how did you find 6,000 crores of fixed deposits missing? Because chartered accountants will tell you that we sign on the dotted line. Whatever the businessman wants, we sign. So in other words, the elite class is not doing what they should do. If I teach you well, then why would you come to me for tuition? So teachers don't teach well in the class, so they can do tuition. And what does that mean? The child's time is wasted. 1 hour in the class and 1 hour in mugging up when the tutor comes. But understanding is not there. So understanding is largely missing. So in other words, what happens is black economy has resulted in massive inefficiency everywhere. Whether it be education, health, business, whatever profession you take. And that is what has been the bane of India. Why we have not grown at 8%, whereas Southeast Asian economies have been growing at 8% from the 60s. And what did Amartya Sen say? The success of Southeast Asian economies was because they focused on education and health. This is a paper in 1986 by Amartya Sen, showing why those economies did well, which we didn't do well. And black economy is largely responsible for that. So therefore, if we want to tackle the black economy, it's a political question. There's no magic wand that we can wave and do it. If illegality is there in 62% of economic activity is systematic and systemic. So black economy is run by a triad. The triad consists of the corrupt businessman, the corrupt politician and the corrupt executive. There's massive corruption in the judiciary. I used to go and sit in Tisdari court and I found for everything you had to pay, for inspecting the file, for the bailiff, for process serving, for everything there's a money to be paid. And Ghaziabad was even worse. So we need to dismantle this triad. If the triad is not dismantled, we cannot do anything about it. So there's a global uncertainty today. This uncertainty in India is mixed with a global uncertainty. And that's the big challenge that all of you are confronted with today. Because Indian economy has an internal uncertainty, but there's an external uncertainty coming from the global this thing. There's a complete rightward shift. You can see in the US with Mr. Trump coming and he's anti-globalization. Brexit is anti-globalization. Le Pen is doing well in France. She's anti-globalization. In Germany, the right wing is rising and against Angela Merkel. In Latin America, a lot of the right wing forces have taken hold. So the closing of mind, more than closing of globalization, the closing of mind. We are not tolerant. Tolerance has gone down. So social conflict is rising. And that is the big paradigm shift that's taking place. And what is globalization? Globalization today is marketization. What is marketization? Marketization has got a bad name as a result of the globalization phenomena. Okay? So principles of marketization are more is better. So what is more is better? If I have one shirt, if I have another shirt, I'm better off. If I have one car, I have another car, I'm better off. So sacrifice is no more a virtue. You should consume more and more. So sacrifice is stupidity. So environmental pollution is a direct consequence of this, more is better. Second principle that the marketization works on is what Samuelson called the dollar vote. What is the dollar vote? If I have $1, I have one vote. If you have $1 million, you have 1 million vote. So who determines the market outcome? Those who have higher purchasing power. So it's not one person, one vote, but it is how many dollar votes I have. So therefore, those who are marginal to the market become more marginalized. So one American equals 40 Indians because their per capita income 40 times India's. So even though we have 4 times their population, but in the World Forum, we have very little voice. They have the voice because they have the purchasing power. Okay. So therefore, democracy cannot survive with the principles of marketization. And that's why Gandhi said that we have to go for voluntary poverty because the world cannot sustain this consumerism. The massive impact of consumerism that you're seeing in the polar ice melting, in the sea levels rising, in the kind of pollution that you see in Delhi, etc., etc. So We will have to refocus on the internal market. If Trump succeeds, if Brexit succeeds, if Le Pen succeeds, then what we have to do in India? We will also have to focus more on the internal market. We, for the last 25 years, have been focusing on the external market rather than the internal market. That's one crucial thing. Second is technology has to be crucially. Remember in 2015, for 360 jobs of peons in UP, there were 23 lakh applicants. Okay, and 2 lakh were BTech, MTech, BCom, MCom, and 380 were PhDs. For peon, you require only a 5th class degree. So the kind of desperation to get a good job, a government job, is so enormous that all the prosperous communities, Patidars, okay, Patels that is in Gujarat, Marathas in Maharashtra, Jats in North India, okay, Kapus in Andhra, they are all demanding reservation. Even though we know reservation is not a solution, but they are all demanding it because jobs are not coming. For 12 million children who come into the job market every year, there are only 5 lakh desirable organized sector jobs. So only 3% of children will get desirable organized sector jobs. Remaining 97% will have to go to unorganized sector at 1/10 the salary, at 6,000, 8,000 rupees, whereas in the organized sector you can get 60,000, 40,000. Okay. So there's a massive problem of jobs that is linked to technology, that's linked to globalization, and that is why globalization has got a bad name in USA. The very blue-collar workers who voted for Trump are the ones who say that immigrants have taken away our jobs, that we are not getting jobs. So therefore, we have to anticipate all these difficulties and solve our problems. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble. Now, I've taken too much time. So to conclude, so note shortage is converting to a recessionary condition. That's one conclusion. Demonetization, why was it done? Because recent steps the government took had all failed. They had taken many steps after coming to power that failed. They needed something big to do that. The black economy is not getting affected by this demonetization because black income generation is not affected and black wealth is affected only to the extent of 1%. Now the problem is that to catch the 3%, we are affecting the 97%. Those who don't generate black income, they had to stand in the queues, they had to face cash shortage, their jobs went, but those who were generating black incomes, they did not affect. What could have been done? To affect the 3%, we could have attacked Hawala. Hawala houses are tracked on a daily basis. There are intelligence operatives outside each Hawala house. Intelligence operatives know where they are in Chandni Chowk, where they are in the farmhouses outside in Delhi, where in Bhendi Bazaar in Bombay, where Hassan Ali in Pune, the horse racing fellow who got caught in 2007, where in Kolkata, Chennai. They're all tracked. In 5 minutes, the Prime Minister can order and can be closed and people visiting there can be caught. That's what happened in the Jain Hawala case in 1991 when 52 politicians' names came out, including LK Advani and Sharad Yadav and so on. Okay, so we can catch them. RTI needs strengthening, but we are weakening it. Whistleblowers bill needs strengthening, but we are weakening that. Direct tax code needs to be brought in. That is not being done. Banking secrecy needs to be curbed. What did we learn from HSBC bank case? That HSBC was acting as a Hawala operator. It was taking money from India to Zurich and back from there. The same thing is done by all multinational banks. Same thing is done by Indian private banks in the name of high net worth individuals. So therefore, banking secrecy needs to be addressed. So in other words, checking black economy would be a paradigm change. But it can't be done by a one magic wand. And I'll close with the Bali Ramayana. What is the Bali Ramayana? Bali is a Hindu island, thousands of kilometers from here. They enact the Ramayana, just like we do, but it's enacted by men in check lungis. Idea is good and evil coexist. So black and white coexist. And there, when Ram shoots the arrow, Ravan falls down but doesn't die, unlike in our Ramayana where Rama dies. He gets up and starts fighting again. The idea is that good and evil are in our mind. And there's a contention for space. If there's more good in society, we'll shift towards good. If there's more evil in society, we'll shift towards evil. But it's in our minds. There's no magic wand. We can't kill it all at once. Therefore, there has to be constant struggle. And that's where movements are crucial. Thank you very much for your patience.
Sir, we want your 2 more minutes. We have some students who want to interact with you.
A very good afternoon to sir. I'm Kanika Koche from MBA. I have read your book which you have presented latestly, and it was such an interesting book, and thank you so much for writing such a wonderful book. My question to you is how citizens' sense of belongingness can be improved?
I think that's a very good question. How does a citizen belong to a nation?
Yes, sir.
It is an identification with the nation. But if you have alienation, there's a concept in sociology called alienation. If there's alienation in society, then you don't feel you belong to society. You become atomistic. And this marketization process leads to atomization. And the black economy also means that I'm doing it for myself, not for society. So if you can check black economy, and if there are movements who then take advantage of the fact that you are a collective rather than an individual, because movement by definition means collectivity. And in India, we've had lots of movements against corruption. Like in 1973, we had the Nav Nirman movement in Gujarat. We had the JP movement, which was a youth movement in the entire North India at that time in 1974. Then at the time of Bofors, we had a movement. Then Anna Hazare Ramdev movement. And each time the youth came out. The more the youth is active, the more the youth is involved with the public, okay, rather than only for myself. This is the problem with our marketization, that it leads to atomization. I think I'm succeeding only because of myself, not because of my family, not because of my society. The moment that kind of alienation ends, we will begin to identify with society, and once we do that, then I think we'll be able to solve the problems of the nation.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your lifelong experiences and contribution. Your insights have created a place in our mind to forecast our future well in advance. We thank you for providing a preview about and giving us a better understanding about the black economy as well. Sir, we have read and faced demonetization, but your valuable thoughts and analysis and information made us understand the true impact of demonetization on our economy, different sectors, on the GDP growth, and most importantly, us. We thank you for your lucid words, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the much awaited moment of the day, the release of the conference proceedings. I would request the dignitaries to kindly open and release the proceedings for the International Conference 2017. Thank you, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a token of respect and remembrance, I would request Professor Dr. Raman Garg to kindly present memento to Professor Arun Kumar as a gesture of gratitude and appreciation. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite student coordinator from organizing team, Mr. Anshul Ruhil, to please toast a vote of thanks.
Respected Professor Arun Kumar, Professor Dr. Raman Garg, distinguished guest speakers, my respected teachers and dear student friends, a very good afternoon to all of you. It is both my privilege and honor to propose a vote of thanks on this platform. We are blessed by the presence of such eminent thinkers and speakers. First, I would like to thank Dr. Patra for taking time out and sending his good wishes for us. Friends, it is a true sign of a leader such as Dr. Patra, whose glorious vision manifests our actions into social good. Sir's commitment to the cause of youth empowerment and upliftment and to lead India to its glory sets out a mission for us young Indians. Moreover, Sir has promised us that he will be visiting us in the near future. I also wish to express my heartfelt gratitude to Professor Arun Kumar for his gracious presence here today. Sir, your incisive analysis on the current issues in the economy has a psychological impact on people, especially the youth. Your remarkable insights in explaining the paradox of black economy have provided in-depth understanding of the effects of the policy changes. Thank you, sir, for your contribution in reflecting true picture of the macroeconomy. Your words of wisdom will echo in hearts of us young Rukmanians. I would also like to thank our management for always being committed to provide optimum environment and resources that aim to chisel original thinking and problem solving skills through innovative ways for a better tomorrow. I wish to acknowledge and applaud the spirit with which Professor Anil Kumar Goyal, convener, and Dr. Tripti Bajpai, co-convener, and conference student coordinators have put in untiring efforts with true honesty and passion. I also wish to acknowledge the presence of speakers who have accepted this platform to enlighten our faculty and students with their research efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, Rukmani Devi family is and has always been committed to progress of society by spreading awareness on issues that affect our neighborhood and world at large. I, on behalf of Rukmani Devi Group and Seth Pokharmal Education Society, with folded hands, thank Dr. Patra, Professor Kumar, all the distinguished guests for their gracious presence here today, which will act as a deep source of motivation for all of us. Thank you. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Anshul.
I would request the gathering to strike a chord with each other over tea. Kindly let us all get together on the ground floor hall above this auditorium. The first technical session for the day shall start at sharp 12:40 at the same venue. Looking forward to see you then. Thank you.
पता नहीं वहाँ बुला रहे